Hello and welcome to the ASEAN Game. I'm your host, Ryan Walters, coming to you from Kuala Lumpur, one of several cities set to host the first ever Shopee Cup. Guests from all over the region will be joining to preview groups A and B and give their predictions for who will emerge the winners from each group. But no tournament preview, and indeed, very few episodes of this show are complete without the informal, formal co-host, Keish Sundaresan. You're back. Keish, welcome back.
It's good to be back, Ryan. I'm looking forward to the Shopee Cup.
The Shopee Cup, as some of us call it in group chats, but I'll leave that for another time. And another regular co-host, another man that we can't preview tournaments without. Aun Rahman is back. Aun, welcome back.
Hi, how are you guys? Good to be here.
It's good. It feels like the Avengers have reassembled in a lot of ways.
Indeed.
You know? It's kind of becoming an annual tradition that I'm in KL at this time of year, and we're previewing a tournament at this time of year. So it feels right. We don't have to go through the interzonal format or any of that for AFC Cup. This one's a little more straightforward. So
really don't miss those. Yeah.
I miss AFC Cup because it'll always be in my heart, but I don't miss trying to explain to people like, oh, so Mariners are champions of a region, but they still need to keep playing. I was like, yeah, well, they're ASEAN champions. Now they need to go into the interzonal, semi-formal, zonal, 9er, 6, 5, 4. Ugh. But go on, Mariners, the Hulk of ASEAN football, as we called them last year. But sadly, they are not in this tournament, or fortunately for some folks, depending on how you feel about Australia being part of Southeast Asian football. But they're not here for now. Instead, we are going to be talking about the teams that are involved. In case you don't know, it is 12 teams broken down into 2 groups, 6 teams in each group. And we're going to be talking about all 12 of those teams. So we'll be going through their strengths and their current form, the expectations they have going into the tournament. We'll give you a player to watch. And then, because it's fun to throw ourselves under the bus, we will also be going ahead and predicting who's going to win each of these groups. Because, we know what's going to happen in February, right?
Maybe.
Absolutely not.
Hey, look, all of us got Mariners last time. We said they were going to win the whole tournament. And I'm going to do the same thing.
To be fair, that was a difficult call to make.
But right, this is Southeast Asia. This is the rice European, the rice. Different zone. I think it will be a battlefield more, because we can see on IFF, or in some way we call it Suzuki Cup or IFF. We can see that the tournament is our World Cup, our Euro. So I think the heat of the competition also will go into this Shopee Cup. I think will be the same manner, especially if the competition is going in the long run.
I mean, I hope so. And I think that it is one where I love the reformatting of the AFC competitions. Still, we'll never get on board with the names, but I love the reformatting of it. But
Agree.
This one,
I don't like the name.
No, nobody likes the names. I don't know who
I don't like the name. Because I talked to my guy. So how to make this difference, man? It's like, and one day, if I have a kid again, I will name him you the second. Aun the second, Aun the one. It's like bit lazy writing there.
About as long as you don't call one of your kids Elite. As long as I don't have a son and say Ryan Elite and Ryan 2. I think I'll just, instead of a college fund, you just start preparing for that therapist bill later in life if you're doing that kind of thing. But we'll leave the parenting tips for a different show. Instead, we'll transition over. We'll start with Group A, and we'll start with one of the giants of the region, a team that's fighting on, I think, 75 different fronts this year. So many competitions for them. But we're going to go ahead and get started in Group A with Thai League Central's Gyan Chandrasala taking a look at BG Pathum United. Gyan?
Hi Ryan, and hi to all the listeners of the ASEAN Game podcast. Just phoning in to give my thoughts on the Thai clubs participating in the ASEAN Club Championship, starting with BG Pathum United in Group A. So BG come into this tournament on a huge publicity high, having beaten German giants Borussia Dortmund 4-0 in preseason, a result that made headlines pretty much around the football world. That gave them some momentum, but they have not started the season that well because they lost their first home game of the campaign to newly promoted Rayong, who many thought would be in relegation contention. So that's sort of taken the steam out of that a little bit. Their expectations going into this tournament will probably be to win the whole thing. You know, there's no surprise that BG are trying to expand their brand in ASEAN. They've been doing that through many facets, including their partnerships in Singapore by participating in the Singapore Cup and their sponsorship of Tampines Rovers, now called BG Tampines Rovers, in fact. And they're trying to grow their presence in ASEAN. So it's no surprise that they're seeing this as a major priority for them to try and win the whole thing and establish themselves as a major club in the region. The fact that they rejected to participate in the ACL2 shows how much they value this competition, and I think they will throw everything at it to try and be champions. The strengths of their team are obvious, and you should look at the team sheet. So many ex-Thai internationals and game changers and players that people know throughout the region, like Chanatip, like Tirasin, and more recently Juruen Sak and others. So there's plenty of talent in that team, but the weakness is, well, Rayong sort of exposed the blueprint over the weekend of how you can beat BG Pathum, because they're a strong team, they're a fast counter-attacking team, but when you sit back against them and you make them break down a low block, they don't really have the answers. And Rayong basically sat very deep and shut down Chanatip. They really tightly man-marked him, didn't give their wingers space to run in behind, and pretty much closed them down. So if the other teams in the group look at BG as a threat, they treat BG with respect and focus on defending, I can totally see them dropping points against resolute deep block teams. That's sort of the big weakness. And the one to watch, I mean, everybody knows Chanatip in the region, so I won't go for him. I'll say instead Juruen Sak Wongkon, who has become a regular in the Thai national team under head coach Mastada Ishii, had a fantastic season with Muang Thong United last campaign, was expected by many to sign for a club in the J-League, but head coach Makoto Taguramori is a big fan, so BG, splashed the cash to bring him back to Pathum Thani once again, and I think that he will be a difference maker, and if he's given the space and time, he can cause a lot of damage. So I would say Juruen Sak Wongkon is definitely one to watch.
All right, thanks so much, Gian. And let's go ahead and keep things rolling with a closer look at Terengganu FC. Kish, what can you tell us about one of my favorite nickname teams, by the way, the Turtles?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Terengganu are quite... it's not a difficult team for a lot of neutrals to get behind because of where it's strategically located by the beach. I know, Ryan, you've been... eyeing out a trip over to Kuala Terengganu.
Someone might be down there soon. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, you'll not be disappointed. It's absolutely incredible. It's very easy for players to go and live there. They enjoy the culture, the sort of, you could argue, work-life balance, because you're so connected to the nature when you live in that side of town. And I think what's also interesting about Terengganu is they've got a bunch of exciting players. They had a group of exciting players last year to begin with. But some of the stars of that AFC Cup campaign, the likes of Habib Harun, the likes of Sonny Norde, have all left. They've all moved over to Kedah. But what Terengganu have got in the bags this year is a couple of players that are on loan from JDT. A couple of pretty big names. Safawi Rashid, who, once upon a time, a superstar of the Asian Champions League. And then they've also got on the other side of the flank, Akia Rashid, who's also a Malaysian national team star. And these two players have, pretty much been stealing the headlines, especially for Safawi, who, this is a huge season for him because he's sort of dipped under the radar a little bit in the last few years. And, there is an expectation that this will be the year in which Safawi rediscovers the form that once, made him one of Southeast Asia's best wingers. It's not quite there yet, but we're getting glimpses of it in the Malaysian Super League. In the first 7 or 8 match days so far, Safawi has scored already a few incredible free kicks. giving us a glimpse into the stuff he used to do for JDT. So there is a real sense of excitement around this Terengganu team, though consistency is a bit of a problem. They do well in some games. They end up, they were knocked out of the FA Cup semi-finals 4-1 by Selangor in the second leg, having won the first leg at home. And then they very recently they were held to a 1-1 draw by Sri Pahang as well. So there's this niggling issues with consistency that is stopping them from being challengers to JDT and Selangor at the top of the Liga Super table as we speak.
Do you think that's something that might, I don't know, it's weird to say help them, but like, do you think they could kind of shake that in a tournament format? Do you think that they'll benefit a little bit from just like the quick couple of match days here?
I suppose. I mean, what was interesting about Terengganu last year, if you remember, was that they weren't great in the league either. They had their fair share of struggles, fair share of inconsistencies. But when it came to the AFC Cup, they were not an easy team to beat. I'll give them that. Obviously, this year, they look a little more exposed at the back, conceding 4 against Selangor. Stuff like that doesn't really help. But in recent weeks, they seem to have picked up a bit of their groove, and it'll all go back to the defense. I mean, it's very easy to pinpoint Safawi, Akia, and all the other options that they have in the middle of the park, including Nurilo as well. But I think if they are to achieve any form of success at this tournament, a lot of it banks on whether or not they can keep themselves tight at the back defensively.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the case for a lot of these teams, but definitely for Terengganu as well. Another team, moving on, another team that I think will be keeping a lot of focus on the defense, Dong'an Thanh Hoa. This is a team that I was lucky enough to see in person a little bit earlier this year, a really fun team to watch. They are out of action for quite a while. The last match was the Vietnamese National Cup win against Hanoi back in early July, though. But the end of the season in good form with just 1 loss in 7 matches. And in most stats, they're okay. they're pretty middle of the road in most things. But I think that when you look at where those successes have come in the Vietnamese Cup, they've had a couple of decent performances internationally already. This is a tournament team. So I think that they're going to be coming into this looking to make a statement, to be honest, because they are back-to-back Vietnamese National Cup champs, as mentioned there. And they opted out. This is still pretty controversial here, but they opted out of ACL2 just because they don't have the squad depth, they don't have the budget, and they were just real about it, and they just said we can't do this many tournaments. So to me, I think if you're looking at Shopee Cup as a Thanh Hoa fan, that's great news because they're all in on this one internationally. I think. To me, the travel days are a little bit easier because you can stay in the region, so you save a little bit of the budget there. I think it makes sense for the team to do this, and it's also, to me, it's a statement of intent in this tournament that we're staying in Shopee Cup, and we win tournaments. So to me, I think they've got to be targeting the semifinals in this one. They got to be targeting getting out of the group, and to help them do that, the Jamaican Romario Gordon is going to be the one to watch there. He was our top scorer with 10 goals last year. He's no new name to Vietnamese football fans. He's been in V-League for quite a while. He was with Zalai for a little while, with Hanoi for a little while. And he's the key man. But Win Ta Son is the one that I think will be more fun to watch for fans of Southeast Asian football. And also, why not give a shout out to a 6? He's a central defensive midfielder. We love him on this podcast. He is a regular with the national team. He featured at the Asian Cup, World Cup qualifiers. So I think, especially with one eye on AMEC, with the AFF Mitsubishi Electric Cup coming up later this year, he's definitely going to be one to watch for them. But also, just watching V-League highlights this year, again, seeing them in person a little bit, this is a fun team to watch as well. I think they put on a show. I think the consistent thread of this podcast will be that we'll be talking about inconsistency a bit because a lot of these teams are inconsistent. Thanh Hoa falls into that category, but when they win, and they win big, and they can hit on the counter quickly. They're a fun team to watch. So I think with this one, definitely tune in when they're playing because, again, I think this is a team that wants to make a statement in V-League and in Vietnamese club football, and I think they're viewing this tournament as the way to do it. So they'll be a fun one. And another team, moving on to another team that I think is looking for a bit of a statement, a team that used to be giants in these kind of competitions. A name that's very familiar with folks in the region, certainly, but that's PSM Makassar. And how do you think they're viewing this tournament? Like, how are they come into this? How are they looking?
I think besides the legendary, the Black Stars Persipura Jayapura, I think PSM is the one of the team in Indonesia who had, we can say, is tournament DNA. They always play really good when they play in Asian tournament. I think in the new millennium, PSM is the only thing who can reach the quarterfinal of Asian competition. I think in the last edition of FC Cup, they reached the ASEAN zone as the ASEAN zone final. The team is, of course, it's not really have the strength like 2 years ago when they crowned champion. But I think there's a lot of young player like Muflidat, who also play in under 19s, Ananda Rehan, Sultan Zaki, Victor Detan, and so on. Also, I think the reason Indonesian team will be different in the tournament with foreign players rule. Right now in Liga 1, any teams can add 8 foreign players, but only 6 can play. So I think the foreign players also will be the key factor for the PSM to strive in the Sobi Cup. Because they had their new striker Haljeta, I think the name. He's really good so far in Liga 1. He scored goals. Also, I think we can point out the coach Bernardo Tavares, the Iberian Boyan. The coach with Persib coach is the same. They have really strong approach and really good approach tactical. Also the pragmatic coach. So PSM, I think with their young player, with their new foreign player, will be surprising team in the Sobi Cup. If you ask me how about their chance, I will be honest that their chance will be kind of not really easy, because there is Bege Patum there, Terengganu there, Sferiang there. But I think if they can doing really good in the group phase, they will achieve more in the next phase.
Throwing Sferiang in there as one of the teams to watch. I like that. And also you're teeing things up perfectly. It's like you got to look at the rundown there. That is the team that I'll be talking about next. I think, I honestly, I don't know that it's that outlandish to say that they are one of the teams for PSM and the other teams in this group to watch out for, because they are coming in incredible form. 4 straight wins in all competitions, and they're outscoring opponents 17-4 during that stretch. Yes, I said that correctly. 17-4. They haven't lost since April. So this is a team that is just absolutely flying right now. And the expectations they have coming into this tournament are, I think, much like a lot of the other teams I've been talking about as well. Like, I think BG, Buriram, the bigger teams, they don't necessarily have as much of a statement to make, but Sferiang, they do. And I think that this is a team that's up there with Phnom Penh Crown, with Vesaka. They are undeniably heavyweights of Cambodian football, and I think they want to make a statement. And I think after securing a league and cup double last year, they want to take that next step and hop into international football in a meaningful way. And they also, speaking of great nicknames, the Blue Sabres, outstanding. They are 3-time champions, so they have a winning pedigree. They know how to win in tournaments. They know what they're doing. They are also in AFC Challenge League, but I think unlike ACL Elite and ACL 2 that just keeps going on and has a lot of travel involved, one of the things I love about Challenge League is that they have made a hub out of this, so teams aren't required to travel as much, which is great for smaller clubs. So I don't think that's going to affect them as much as some teams being in ACL 2, for example, and having to travel all over the continent, as we've seen. So they are fighting on multiple fronts, but I think they've got the depth for it. And again, with Challenge League being hubbed, that's not as much of a concern for them there. So they do also have one man to watch out for in attack, and that's Pablo, who scored 4 goals in 2 games in the playoffs, an absolute difference maker for them. A couple of guys that are also on the Cambodian national team. So this is another fun team to watch, and they are one that I think they're going to make a little bit of noise, and I think Cambodian and football in general is making a little bit of noise right now. We saw what Phnom Penh Crown did in AFC Cup last year, And we've seen what Visaka has done in the past, and the kind of facilities clubs like Visaka are building now. Like, things are on the rise in Cambodia, and I think that this will be a team to watch. I don't know that they'll really be targeting getting out of this group because it is a tough group, but a fight for second, I don't think is beyond them. So they'll be a fun one. And I hope you're enjoying this nasally American accent, because I've got the next team to go through as well. Let's talk about Shan United. Speaking of teams that are on a great run of form, I don't know if anybody in world football can match the run that Shan United is on. They haven't lost this year. Their last loss came in the AFC Cup against MacArthur in November. When it comes to league play, they haven't lost since February 2020. That is just a little bit of a dominant run there. And as you might figure with that kind of a run, they score goals for fun in league play. So the expectations coming into this, they are AFC Cup vets. They've had 4 appearances in the AFC Cup. They will also be in the AFC Challenge League, but as mentioned, that's hubbed. I don't think it's going to affect them as much. I think the difficulty for them is stepping up to this level, because obviously they're just dominant at home. They're just dominant in the domestic league. So can they step up? Can they step up, and can they make that difference internationally? And again, they've got some foreign strikers that I think will make a difference for them. But Yi Ang is the one that I'm going to go for here as the player to watch. He is a regular for the Myanmar national team, had 5 goals and 4 assists in his first season with Shan. And I think, yeah, again, let's give a shout to some of the guys that'll be on the national team. And I think he'll be a fun one to watch. As far as expectations in the group, I honestly think for them, just putting up a good showing, I think would be good here. It's a weird one because both playoff teams are in this. They're one of the playoff teams, obviously. So it's not as tough as Group B in a lot of ways, but it's not an easy group, which is why I'm not going to volunteer this first. Keish, who's winning this difficult group?
Yeah, I mean, as much as I'm inclined to just drop the ball and just say Terengganu, of course, I'm biased that way, right? But I think objectively, it's hard to look past BG Patum. I think it's a really exciting team. It's really strong.
Mm-hmm.
I've really enjoyed watching them in the ACL even over the years. So I really think they are major favorites to win this group. Of course, a lot of this depends on the kind of lineup that all the clubs put out eventually, and we can only make conclusions and assumptions on that after at least match day 1. But right now, I think all things considered, I'd still put BG Patum as the major favorites.
Alan, are you going to echo that, or are you going somewhere else?
Of course. I same here with Keys, man. Honestly, BG Patum will be the superior team in the group. I think they are in a different level. FNC, they are going to be the top of the group. The second may be between Terengganu and PSM. PSM, I will say PSM, because if not, Indonesian public will killing me because I talk in English accent. PSM, guys, PSM. I said PSM, man. Come on.
Yeah. That's what we all heard, and I won't edit that out at all. I would never.
If I spell Indonesian team name with English-esque accent, somebody will bust my ass because I said it's PSM. No, it's PSM. So I will say it PSM. Okay, guys who hear this, I won't say PSM. Okay.
Okay. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it because that's not who I think is going to win the group. Instead, I think BG are going to come in as favorites, but I think BG have too many competitions. They have every single domestic competition, which in Thailand is like 75. I mean, but no, like domestically, they've got a couple of different cup competitions. They've got the league where I think they really want to make an improvement. They have not been playing well in the league. They have the squad to compete in the league. And I think they've built to compete there. So this is why I think Terengganu is actually my favorite for this group, because they don't have those obligations. They are a strong squad. We already know who's going to win the Malaysian Super League for the next 75 years. They don't need to worry about that. It's already done. Let's just give JDT their 20th ring in advance. So for Terengganu, I think this is a great way to make a statement, to get a trophy, perhaps, because I think that team is strong enough that they could be competing for the title of this. And I think they're going to come out of this group winners. They might not beat BG. I think those would be some close matches. Again, Keish, like you're saying, it depends on who's in the 11. But I think in the other matches, Terengganu is just I think they're just gonna outmatch everybody. So don't let me down, guys, because I'll look like an idiot in a couple of months if you do. So I'd prefer not to do that. On the note of favorites, let's go ahead and move over to Group B. And as we did in Group A, we'll be starting with Thai League Central's Kian Chandrasala, who's going to take a look at Buriram United. Kian?
Thai champions Buriram United are in Group B, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were considered the favourites to win the entire tournament. They won the Thai League title last season and have only gotten stronger since then, scoring 4 goals in both of their opening fixtures so far, including against second-placed Bangkok United. So on paper, their squad is incredible. There's a lot of depth and a lot of quality and talent throughout the team. And frankly, nobody has yet found the way to stop them, especially not in Thai League. If you try and press them high, they have so much quality to play through you. But if you sit back as well, there's so much talent in the final third. They can pick any lock, any defense in Thailand. And I imagine they'll be able to take that form to the wider region as well. I'm really looking forward to see how teams will try and stop this Buriram juggernaut, especially Mano Poking's Gong An Hanoi. We've seen many classic games between Mano Poking's Bangkok United and Buriram in the past, and it'll be interesting to see how he approaches this game now in charge of the Vietnamese side. So yeah, the strength has to be the talent in the squad, and the big weakness which could work against them is how thinly stretched they are this season. They are playing in quite a few competitions, and including the ACL Elite, which I will imagine is their priority to try and make a big impression on the continent's biggest stage. So whether they can balance that with the Shopee Cup, with playing in the Thai League as well, I'm not quite sure. It's very rare to be playing 2 different international competitions at the same time. How will they rotate the squad? What will they do? How will they, maintain fitness levels? That's probably the biggest hitch, and that could work against them, especially as we get later into the tournament. So you'll see exactly how they'll be able to cope with all those demands. One to watch, we have to say, Guilherme Bissoli, the Brazilian striker, who scored 19 goals in 17 T1 appearances since joining Buriram. Absolutely phenomenal numbers, but it's not just the output, because his link-up play is absolutely excellent. The way he moves around, finds pockets of space, and links up with teammates is incredible, and he elevates all the players around him. So they work together really well as a devastating attacking unit. So Buriram look like a very scary prospect going into this tournament, and if they can rotate and use the full quality and depth that they have, they will be a force going into this one as well.
All right, thanks so much, Gian. And let's keep going. I was going to say, from United to City, there's the transition. We're always talking United and City. So let's move on from Buriram United. Let's talk about KL City. Let's talk about Kuala Lumpur City, a club that you and I are both physically close to in location right now, Keish. We'll stick to the on-field.
Kuala Lumpur. I'm a big fan of Kuala Lumpur.
Oh, everybody is.
Yeah.
Maybe not some of the players, but again, we'll stick with what's happening on the field. Keish, what's going on with KL City strength and form-wise?
I mean, look, Ryan, it's very difficult to stick to on-field when the on-field outcomes are very much dictated by things that happen off the field too. And if there's one thing, look, before we even mention any of the things that's happening off the pitch, but if there's one thing that's to absolutely like about KL City and the group of players over there, is the fact that they've got a real family-like bond and relationship within the dressing room. It's very evident to see. I think perhaps the highlight of it would have been the Klang Valley Derby very recently, I think about a month plus ago, when KL City went up against Selangor and they ended up winning the game. And if you watch that game, there were some warrior-like performances from players, some of whom looked absolutely dead at the end of the 90 minutes. Some of the players lost their voice just shouting and organizing the team throughout that smash and grab victory. But yeah, there is a real strong spirit, and I suspect that that spirit will come in real importance when this tournament kicks off, because putting that spirit aside, there's a lot of negative things that's been happening off the pitch. There is an upcoming general election to see who's going to be the next sort of like president, and then board of directors, and there's a lot of stuff happening off the pitch. At the same time, um, a lot of players are still owed wages for months now. We know they have been docked points in the Malaysian Super League because of that. They have dropped from being close to the top four. They're now in the bottom part of the league because of those dock points, and the dock points have also impacted them negatively because they've lost their last two games. It was a 2-0 defeat to Terengganu. Very recently, they had a 2-1 loss to PDRM as well. So it's not the greatest space to be in at the moment, if you're a player or if you're a fan of KL City. But hopefully this tournament serves a distraction. Hopefully it's also an opportunity for them to build up squad morale, to rally the troops, to improve morale amongst supporters as well. And hopefully it offers the right sort of commercial opportunities for them to make the money that's absolutely necessary for them to pay players and pay staff and keep the ball running. Yeah. So this in many ways, this is an important tournament for KL City.
Yeah, I think, like you said, especially it's not a small amount of prize money that's involved here either. I mean, we're not talking about what it used to be for AFC Cup or anything like that. I don't remember the exact number, so I won't quote it, but it's not a small amount. It's more than you'd make for winning the K-League title, for example, which I think is still 500,000 US. So come on, K-League. By the way, come on, K-League. Let's go. But yeah, I think that's a really good point that like they need this one, which similar story when they needed the AFC Cup win, when they flew all the way over to Uzbekistan and they had to win that game to really make it work for them financially. They did. So we'll see what they've got. Another club that's going to be traveling all around, it's nothing new to them. A team that I think is going to be familiar for most folks following AFC Champions League, AFC Cup, or just Asian football in general. That's Kaya FC Iloilo. They are in yet another international competition, and here to tell you a little bit more about them is Claro Manzano.
Hi Ryan, Claro Manzano here. So first question, strengths and current form. How's Kaya looking? Kaya FC Iloilo, the representatives of the Philippines in the Shopee Cup, just successfully defended their Philippines Football League title. They made it back-to-back. They are also the reigning winners of the Copa Paulino Alcantara. That's the cup tournament in the Philippines. And Kaya haven't lost a local football match since early 2023. So they are undefeated in local play right here. But when we look at international competitions, it's another story. Kaya, we'd see them play a lot of counter-attacking and defensive football when they competed in the recent editions of the AFC Champions League. So we can expect a bit of that aspect to be carried on perhaps here to the Shopee Cup, given that they'll be up against regional powerhouses from neighboring countries. And then they have a lot of Japanese influence from their coach, Yu Hoshide, and he brings in that discipline for them. But what I could say is that their core is intact. So a great number of these guys, they've been in the trenches together. They played together in the AFC Champions League. And a number of guys have great national team experience. So that is what is going to be a big boost for this squad. They've been there, they've done that, and playing together on the international stage. For me, maybe to be objective, I think finishing third in the group for them will be realistic, because this is arguably the group of death that they are in. But knowing these guys in Kaya FC Iloilo, they are utmost professionals. These guys don't just want to rack up the numbers there and participate. They want to be competitive and make it to the knockout stages. Want to watch who's the standout or most interesting player in the team? No, I gotta say Park Yi-young, their South Korean midfielder, is the most interesting guy here for Kaya FC. He's got 2 Bundesliga experience, and he was had such a big role for the team in their successful PFL title defense. And he's just a joy to watch, I could say, and is a very technical player. If we want to add to Park Yi-young, if we can add local players, I could say there's Jan Meliza and Odi Menzi. These 2 guys are very experienced and they've been with the team for quite some time. Meliza was very consistent on the wing for them in this recently concluded league. While you got a guy like Odi Menzi who's versatile on defense and he brings in that leadership for them and veteran experience.
All right, thanks so much, Claro. And let's move on to we were talking about a team that's well known throughout the region. Let's talk about a team of superstars within Vietnam. Let's talk about Công An Hanoi, the police team. That's right, for folks watching casually, this is the police team in Vietnam. There's also an army team. Asian football is fun. Get into it. This is a team that has a lot of strengths, but it hasn't been great lately. Just 2 wins in 5 and 3 wins in 10. However, those 2 wins that they had, they outscored their opponents 10-1. So 5-0 and 5-1 victories there. So they've got it in them. And when I say that this is a team with a lot of strengths, it's kind of a Vietnamese all-star team in a lot of ways. Win Cong Hai has come back, came back last year from Europe. He's with them. Don Van Hao, almost back to fitness. He's with them. Vietnam #1, Philip Nguyen, is in net. Vu Van Tan is with them. There's just talent up and down this squad. And they also happen to have Mano Poking on the touchline now, the man that led Thailand to back-to-back AFF championships, that has been in Vietnam before, knows the region well. This is a very, very stacked team. And I think with that, anything less than the semifinals, anything less than getting out of the group is an absolute failure for Công An Hanoi. They have to get out of this group, especially because they don't have any other club competitions internationally. So this is another team like Terengganu that I think has a lot of strength. Again, up and down the field, on the touchline, they've been built to win these kind of competitions. So I think they're going to do really well in this one, and one to watch. I mean, his star has faded a little bit, but it's got to be Win Cong Hai. I mean, he's recovered form since coming back to Vietnam. I've talked at length on this podcast about the move to PAO and how that was a mistake, and he probably should have just went to Thailand instead, but he didn't. But now he is regaining form. He had 8 goals and 3 assists last campaign, which isn't outstanding, but I think much like you were talking about Safawi, Kish, I think Win Cong Hai is somebody that's trying to rebuild his name, and neither of them are so old that they're past it and they can't do that. So I think that this is another player really looking to get his name back up there, especially in a year where you've got to think Vietnam are going to be looking at AMEC, the AFF Mitsubishi Electric Cup, which is the short is AMEC, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. It's just what we're going to do from now on. You've got to think they're targeting that. So we'll save that for the preview for that tournament, but I think it's going to be them and Indonesia taking that one quite seriously. So he's going to want to be involved in that. And speaking of...
This is our year, you know. Football is coming home.
It's... just don't. I don't think you want on that bandwagon. It doesn't work out well for them. You might make the finals, but then there's heartbreak following, my guy. But the spiritual home of football, Alan, you are just, I mean, I'm surprised you don't have an Indonesian flag just waving in the background this episode. You're going in hard. Man. I like it.
So,
and on the note of teams that you're going to back, let's talk about Borneo. What do they got going on coming into this?
Before I tell about the current situation of Borneo, I must say to our friendly audience how we see the Borneo FC team. You know, there is an era in Indonesian football. There is a new team, Borneo FC, unlike Bali United, who suddenly on the top of competition. Borneo FC, going through their way to the top flight. They are the champions of the last time name is the Premier Division in 2014. What I can say about the Borneo FC is they always have the good kit, good fun, and good social media content. But the fans, when you say amount, of course they not in the same amount with Persija and Persebaya, but they have loyal fans. And this team had their own style. That's also I encourage our brother and sister in Southeast Asia, if you want to see the team who has taste and style, it's Borneo FC. Stefano Lillipali played there, the greatest number 10 in Indonesian football history. Oh man, come on. Stefano Lillipali. I will debate everybody who say otherwise, because he's the best player I ever seen in my life. Borneo FC, they play in Asian competition also, because they win the league series last season. They're in title race with Persib Bandung, who happens in the end of the season being the championship series winner, which is, I think, what happened with Borneo is they need an arena or a marking or a momentum to show they are also a big boys in Indonesian football. So I think when they able to play in this kind of competition, they can show that, because I think even when they don't play, I think they're already the big boys in Indonesian football. As football club, I think they are really, really good club. Their coach is Peter Huistra. I also admire him because he got a really good framework for play. But what happened in last season, Borneo FC in really good running form, but then in the end of the season, they kind of like a car who got nicked, because then Persib play better in championship series. But I think the team is really good. A lot of young players. I can say Fajar Faturrahman will be players who to see, because he can play in all flank, left and right. Yeah, and of course, because the new rule about foreign players, Borneo FC got really, really good foreign players. So I think it also will be their strength. I think they will play in Batakan. Batakan is really good. It's a really good stadium, also really good stadium. If you want to see Borneo, you can see the new capital city. So yeah, the team is really good. If you want to choose a new team that has new energy, Borneo FC is a really good team you can support.
And if we're talking about away days for the casual fans in the region, I mean, this tournament's giving you some good options here. So there is. Well, speaking of away days, we'll end with the most expensive option, and that's Singapore, where there is a representative in this tournament. It's a team that you know very well at this point. They're no strangers to international club football. It's the Lion City Sailors. And again, what tournament preview is complete without Rish Roshan Rai? Roshan, what's going on with the Sailors?
Well, the Lion City Sailors come into this in a good run of form. They've only lost once this season, and that is to the current Singapore Premier League leaders. Although it was a shock result, they lost 5-0 to BG Tampines. Since then, though, they have bounced back with 3 straight wins in the league. They've been scoring goals for fun. They're one of the top scorers in the competition, and they actually have one of the best goal-scoring records in world football. They average about 3.63 goals per game. They played 11 matches in the league so far. They've won 9, they've drawn 1, and they've lost just the 1 match so far this campaign. So they do come into this in a good run of form, and they also should have that nice little bit of rhythm going for them when compared to some of the other sides that might be in their group who perhaps have just started or haven't really started their domestic campaigns just yet. So the Lion City Sailors could have that match fitness and that match rhythm going for them in the early stages of this competition. In terms of whether they should be taking this seriously or whether they're there to just make up the numbers, they absolutely should be taking this seriously, and they will be. This is a target for them. They want to go far in this competition. They will want to go all the way and try and win this. The Singapore's fully privatized club, Singapore's only fully privatized club at the moment, so they spent a lot of money to bring in some top quality players locally and in terms of the foreign signings as well. And those are players who can help contribute. They've also got a very big squad, which will allow them to rotate and keep players fresh throughout all the competitions that they'll be taking part in this season. They've also got ACL2, of course, to look forward to. But in terms of the Shopee Cup, they will be taking this seriously, and I think they'll expect that they want to go as far as they possibly can in this competition. Now, you're looking at this squad. I mentioned the key players, the foreign players that could be coming in, and one of them will be Maxime Lestienne, who will be a crucial player for the Lion City Sailors in their campaign. He's already got 9 goals, 14 assists from 11 matches this season. He was a top scorer and a top assister for them last season as well. One of the Singapore Premier League's best players, can play on the right-hand side of attack or on the left. If he plays on the right hand side, expect him to cut in onto his favorite left foot and find passes in behind or have shots at goal himself. So he's definitely a player to keep an eye on. He's someone who can be a real game changer for this Lion City Sailors side. Even when things aren't quite going well for them, they've got plenty of quality in attack going forward. The other player that I wanted to highlight was Shawal Anwar. He's a local player and he's been on fire. He's been in a great run of form for the Lion City Sailors as well coming into this competition. 8 goals, 7 assists already for him. Really intelligent with his movement off the ball, good finisher, and he's very smart with how he gets in behind opposition defenses. And he's got the players in and around him, in the likes of Lestien, to provide the ammunition for this Sailors side. So they have a good squad. They've got that experience of having Singapore internationals and also good quality foreign signings that have come in. That depth in the squad that I mentioned is also there. Whether they can finish top of the group, whether they can get through is a whole other matter, because this is a fascinating competition. It's such a tough group as well. You've got Buriram in there, you've got Borneo in there as well, Kuala Lumpur in this group. You've got Kongan Hanoi, who are also in there, and they'll be very strong in this competition. So it's such a challenge to actually get into the top 2, with only the top 2 going through to the next stage, into the semi-finals. I personally expect Buriram to be the side to finish top of the group. Again, it sort of depends on how seriously they take it, in terms of whether they really put out a strong squad to compete in these matches. But if they are taking this seriously, then I expect them to go through top of the group, and then it's going to be a real battle. But the Lion City Sailors should be confident in their own ability, should be confident in the quality that they have, and try and take on those challenges, because this is what it's all about. You can try and become the champion of ASEAN, you have to beat some difficult teams to go all the way in this competition.
Thank you so much, Roshan. And gentlemen, there's just one last thing for us to do here, quote unquote, in studio, and that's to pick a winner of Group B. Keish, I'm coming to you first again.
Oh, this is a really tough one.
Yeah.
A part of me wants to do this underdog pick, where I go for KL City because they are really a tournament football team. And they don't have much matches because they're out of the FA Cup. I mean, FA Cup final is also taking place really soon, but they've got the Liga Super, and the Liga Super season this year is a bit stretched out because it's going all the way until May next year. So the frequency of games is not as crazy. So I think this will be a great distraction for them to try and create a bit of history, because they've consistently done that, just got to the finals of cup competition. So a part of me feels like this is an opportunity for KL City to cause a bit of an upset within this group, but it's also very, very, very difficult to look past the Sailors, who I think are a really good team as well. Buriram are pretty good. This is a really tough one, and I'm finding it really difficult to pick one, but I'm going to go with the Sailors.
Okay. I like that pick. Alan, who are you going with?
Me as Indonesian football fan, to be exact, that we had some inferiority complex with Thailand football. When I see there is Buriram there, even I know that they not really strong as the past years, but I think I have thinking that Buriram may be going through, even though there is Sailors there. Even I also think that Borneo also have had a chance to going to be runner up, but I think I pick between Buriram or Lion City.
Pick one.
Pick one, come on, man. I think Lion City.
Okay.
They're stronger.
Yeah, it's a really strong team. I'm realizing the fault in what I wrote down here, but I wrote it down and I'm going to go with it. And also, you guys have been mentioning the teams that are in your home countries. I spend a lot of time in Vietnam, so I'm going with Kongan Hanoi. I think that this is a really strong team, that they've been looking for something to make a statement. And I think if they can get all the pieces together, and again, this competition is going to have a lot of time. We have 2 match days this year, and then it resumes in January. So Mano Poking has had a preseason with the police. He will have a full season with them. So I think this is going to be a really strong team. And much like BG, I don't know how Buriram's going to field their team for this one. If they come out with a full strength squad, we'll see you at the Thunderdome. Yeah. Like it's Thunder Castle. Oh my God. Oh my God. We'll see you at the Thunder Castle. The Thunderdome is for ACL too. Let's go, Montong. Hey, come on! I want them to do well in that group. Why not?
Indeed.
But no, with Kongan Hanoi, I think that there's just so much talent on that team, and that this is a really good opportunity for them to make a statement. But yeah, you've also got Lion City Sailors in there who have the most valuable player in the region in Bart Ramsalar, and that's another very stacked team. The Group B is murderer's row, man. This is a tough one,
Yeah,
but
really be
I
rest.
just wanted to pick a dark horse, and when it comes true, I'm going to look great. Or when they finish bottom of the group, I'm not going to look so great. But that's February's problem. We'll be fine by then. February or March even. Anyway, the schedule and everything else can be found on ASEAN United, ASEANUTDFC.com. ASEAN United FC. Just search for it on social. You'll find it. And speaking of all things ASEAN, that is it for this edition of the ASEAN Game. Be sure to tune in to this lovely competition happening throughout the region. Most folks, I think, will be able to watch on ASEAN United's Facebook or YouTube channels. There are TV deals in a couple of the countries hosting these matches, but I think for most folks, you can tune in on YouTube. Nice and free football. Everybody loves free football. So get in there and then download the Shopee Cup. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to plug Shopee. They're doing fine without me. What I will plug instead is I'll say tune in next episode where I will be coming to you from Kuala Lumpur Football Stadium for match day 2. Until then, from Kuala Lumpur, it's bye for now.